Hello everyone, Spencer Stabio here, and welcome to my recap and review of The Ones Who Live, Episode 2. So if you've seen my last video, basically just a general recap of events through the episode, and then I'll give my final thoughts on the episode as a whole. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we start off with this shot of like a walker that has gas cans tied to it, which of course, we'll see later in the episode. So after the intro, we get basically Michonne recapping and telling this community leader about what she's doing, how she's been looking for Rick, and how that has led her to them. And basically, there's this caravan that has these rules where basically if you fall behind, you get left behind. And, there are characters that are, fed up with that, including the leader's sister, her boyfriend, and this character named Nat. He's pretty cool. We'll get into that later. So basically, they give Michonne a horse and, this leather armor and a weapon that shoots explosive, projectiles. And, of course, this is where it leads to that moment in the series finale for the flagship show where we see, Michonne riding that horse and wearing that leather armor riding down to that horde. So Michonne tries clearing herself a path with, those explosive projectiles that were given to her by Nat. And she does take out, a small chunk of them. I mean, the horde is so big. And, of course, there's that one walker with the gas cans coming out of the horde, paying off that moment earlier, and then that blows up, and, the head hits, Michonne. She gets knocked off of her horse. And it seems like it's going to be really tough to get through that horde, but thanks to Nat, he sets up this, these explosions from, two different directions that ends up separating the horde, and Michonne ends up, getting, some people with her, including Nat, the leader's sister, and her boyfriend, who is played by King Bach, and I don't know that. I'm still, even all these years later, I'm still processing that, what? But anyways. So they decide to come with her. They were, fed up with, the rules of, their caravan community. And so, Michonne, gets to know them, and eventually, we get this, story from, Nat from when he was a child and how he had a dad who wasn't a deadbeat dad, and then he eventually, got a stepdad, and it's actually, a pretty sweet story. Nat's stepdad, taught him or had him, do things. It brought out his creativity and his ingenuity in helping to build things instead of, destroying things, and I don't know, I thought that was a sweet little story. And then we get to the scene where the CRM basically, it's almost like they're just using random strangers, on the outside for testing, but they drop that gas that was developed in World Beyond, and we see the effects of that, and they are brutal. Almost everyone dies. Michonne, Nat, the leader's sister, and her boyfriend, they, go into this mall. They're feeling, the effects of the gas, and it is brutal. And unfortunately, the sister and her boyfriend, they end up dying, and it almost seems like that Nat and Michonne were in that store trying to heal back up for a year, because there's this montage of it, seasons passing by, and that's just crazy. And Michonne wants to continue on her journey alone, and Nat's not going to have that. So both of them end up leaving that store, and they go to the last place where that boat was from, where she found, the phone with the engravings on it. And she basically, finds nothing, and she finds, death on a big wrecked ship, and, she's starting to lose some hope, and we get to another sweet scene between Michonne and Nat as they're, sitting around the fire, and, Nat is basically saying, you can still believe if you want to, and, Michonne is, breaking down crying. Just some, great acting from Denai Guerrera. After that, we catch up to the present, and Michonne and Nat see a helicopter in the sky. And so we find out Nat is the one responsible for shooting down that helicopter, killing Okafor, and making the helicopter crash. And at this point, they want some payback for what they did to their friends. And Michonne ends up going in and killing those CRM soldiers one by one. And this is where we eventually catch up to the big reunion between Rick and Michonne. And man, the acting is just it is really good. Michonne expressing all of these emotions and saying I found you. It's just that delivery was really good. So Nat walks up to them and he's like, is that him? And Michonne is introducing Rick. And then we get to a part where I wasn't expecting. Nat gets shot and dies by one of the CRM soldiers who are still breathing. Man, that really sucks, man. Like, first there was Okafor, who I thought was going to play a big part, and then there's Nat, who I thought was going to play a pretty big part as well. But so Rick is telling Michonne in this moment, like, you can't say you know who I am. You have to lie about who you are. You have to be the opposite of who you are, because the CRM is coming and we can't escape right now, because Rick is in too deep with the CRM at that moment. And he's telling her to basically like give herself up, and then they'll come up with a plan later. So yeah, the reinforcements come in, helicopters come, and they pick up Michonne and Rick. And then we get to like an interview with Michonne, who is now calling herself Dana, and is making up a story about what her life has been like up until that moment. We get another scene between Rick and Michonne where he takes her aside and into like this like garage area where they're keeping CRM trucks. And of course they have to embrace, they have to kiss. It's been fucking what, like almost 10 years since Rick has been gone in like the timeline of the show. And yeah, and Michonne notices the missing hand, and she's telling Rick that Judith and the rest of their friends are okay. But she doesn't mention RJ, and she's saving that for later. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Rick's reaction to that. So, Michonne is like, what are we going to do now? And Rick is saying, he'll think of something. And Michonne is saying, can we fight them? And Rick's like, no. And, Michonne is saying, can we try? Basically, they leave it at that. And Michonne and, Rick, come outside. They go their, separate ways for now. And Michonne has, like, climbs up on top of this building, overlooking just the might and power of the CRM. And we see, like, this shot of all of their, artillery, their vehicles, their helicopters, and it's, it's a crazy shot there. And then we see Jadis again, who goes into Rick's apartment. She's waiting for him there, and Rick comes back into his apartment, and Jadis is basically threatening him that if he and Michonne try and escape, she's gonna kill and destroy everything that he holds dear back at Alexandria, back at their home, basically, everyone they know. And yeah, it's just crazy. I wonder who else knows about Rick Grimes and his history other than Jadis. Does General Beale know? I mean, I guess we'll find out later in the episodes, but anyways, that's where the episode ends. Verdict, a really good episode. Denai Guerrera's acting, she did a really good job, along her journey of, leading up to Rick, and her moments with Rick. They were just so well done. And also, like in the last episode, this episode had, good pacing. It's just, getting to the point. It doesn't feel like it's dragging its feet. And also, we had that great cliffhanger at the end of the episode with between Rick and Jadis, and I'm anxious to see how that plays out. So, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this recap and review. I will be looking forward to episode 3. And with that being said, have a good day.